You're live. Hi, hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon or good evening, or good morning, depending where you are in the world. If you don't know me, my name's Harmi Baines, and I work for West London English School. We're a private language school based here in West London, and we've been doing OET for a number of years now. And what we're going to do today is we're going to be looking at writing a referral letter. So hopefully this lesson will help you, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, a dentist. Hopefully this lesson can help you with the writing paper. Just so you know as well, we are who we are. We are premium preparation providers, and what that means is that we've been accredited, I guess, by OET. So we've been officially trained, we've done courses, our tutors have all done courses with OET. And you'll notice that, sometimes you see a PPP logo, that means Premium Preparation Provider. So we've been officially accredited by OET. And as you prepare for OET, really, you do want to work with a PPP provider. A Premium Preparation Provider. Okay, as we have been accredited officially. So like I said, we won't lose any time. We're going to look at the writing today. I'm going to share my screen with you as usual. And okay, fantastic. You should be able to see now my PowerPoint. We're going to look at writing a referral letter. Just a quick look at the writing format. And I know a lot of you will be familiar with this. For some of you, this will be new. So we'll just go through it fairly quickly. But you're going to be writing a formal letter. It's quite an academic style piece of writing, which you will need to produce. Common types of letters are referral and discharge, but you might also end up writing a letter of transfer as well. Before you take your exam, it's really worth practicing these three types of letters, referral, discharge, and transfer. I would just say with some professions, for example, pharmacy, it's not really that common to write a letter of transfer. Referral and discharge are probably the most common. This is profession specific, so it's a little bit different from the reading and the listening. Writing and speaking are specific to your own profession. Doctors get their own papers, nurses get their own, dentists, pharmacists, so you'll have your own paper with writing. And you're going to have to write about, I don't know, somewhere between 180 to 200 words. You can go a little bit under, you can go a little bit over. It's not too bad, as long as your letter is relevant. And this is what we're going to look at today, really, what makes a relevant letter. First of all, 5 stages of writing. You can see here on the screen there are 5 different stages. So first of all, you've got to interpret case notes accurately. This is really important. You don't want to misinterpret case notes. So you really need to read with care. And actually reading is an important part of the writing exam. You really need to understand the case notes clearly. You're going to have to select the relevant case notes. You're also going to have to make sure your letter is well organized, clear paragraphing and logically organized. You're going to have to then transform the case notes into grammatical sentences. So this is where your grammar comes into play when you're transforming case notes. And finally, at the end, you want to finish your letter a little bit early so you can check your writing, you can proofread, check your spelling, your punctuation, your grammar, check pretty much everything at the end. Okay, so we are going to work our way through these 5 stages. As I mentioned before, one of the first things you're going to have to work out is, are you writing a letter of referral, discharge, or transfer? So make sure you know what you're writing. And this is really crucial, guys. The purpose. You really need to understand why you're writing the letter. If you don't get the purpose correct, your letter probably won't be relevant. and that could really cost you. So you must understand why you're writing the letter. Make sure you know who you're writing to. Who is the recipient? Because your letter must reflect who you're writing to. As a doctor, if you're writing to a neurologist, your letter must reflect that. If you're writing to a cardiologist, your letter must reflect that. So whoever you're writing to, your letter must reflect that. So the recipient is really important. Think about, what do you actually want the recipient to know? What does the recipient need to know? And make sure you're clear about the main issue, the main complaint. Once you have identified the purpose, you're ready to select case notes. Don't just think about what's relevant and irrelevant. Think also about what's semi-relevant as well. That will help you with organization. Remember, most case notes are distractors. Most you won't need. So selecting case notes, it's a strange kind of skill that you're going to need, but a lot of it goes back to understanding the purpose. If you're clear on the purpose and you know why you're writing the letter, what you want the recipient to do, it makes the selection a little bit easier. Okay, and then really once you've selected, you're going to transform. This is where your grammar comes into play. We've mentioned organization, your paragraphing, and at the end, you're going to check your letter as well. We don't have time to talk about absolutely everything in this lesson. So where it says organize, and it says chronological order of importance, we can't really go into details there. That would be another lesson. But you can check us out on wles.net for more information. Okay, let's keep going. These are case notes. This is what you will see on the day of your exam. Some of you will be familiar with this. You can see at the top, 5 minutes reading, and you've got 40 minutes writing time. They give you some context at the top. Really important you read this. Here it says you are a registered nurse preparing Mrs. Jasmine Thompson's discharge. Mrs. Thompson has had a right total shoulder replacement. She is to be discharged home today with assistance from in-home nursing service. So what they're doing is they're giving you a little bit of context. They're just giving you a little bit of background. It's telling you who you are, that you're a registered nurse. And here it's actually telling you something about the patient. They had a right total shoulder replacement, and she's been discharged as well. They've given you quite a lot here. Sometimes you don't get so much, but it's always important just to read the top, see if there is anything there that can help you. And then we're going to go straight to the writing task. Normally with the writing task, you're going to get some information. It says here, using the information given in the case notes, write a letter of referral to Ms. Roberts, a home nurse, informing her of the patient's situation and requesting appropriate care. Address the letter to Miss Nita Roberts, in-home nursing service, 79 Beachside Street, Bayview. So normally what they do is they give you some information. They're going to really tell you what type of letter you're writing, who you're writing to, the recipient, and they might give you some information about the purpose. So you can see here it's a referral. You can see also the recipient, Miss Roberts, and really importantly, her job. She's a home nurse. So you're going to have to keep this in mind. You're writing to a home nurse. And you've got a little bit about the purpose. Just says patient situation, requesting appropriate care. And if you remember, the patient had a right total shoulder replacement as well. So we have a little bit more information now. And I'm just going to skim through the case notes. And I've got a diagnosis, so I can be clear on the diagnosis. And it does tell me right shoulder osteoarthritis. So the patient had right shoulder osteoarthritis, and she's had a shoulder replacement now, and she's being discharged. And I'm going to write to the home nurse. You might want to look at the discharge plan before you start going through the case notes. This is something that I do. The discharge plan is normally quite important. And if I just zoom in here, and you can see here, you can just read through the discharge plan. You've got to take care with the discharge plan because sometimes not all of it is for you. Don't make that mistake in thinking, I need to write everything in the discharge plan. Sometimes you might have to, other times you won't. You really, really need to take care. OET, they like to keep you guessing. You won't know until the day of your exam when you're looking at your case notes and you're looking at the discharge plan. Only then will you realize, okay, I need to write all this information, or I need to be selective. I only need to write this bit of information. You can see here, if you just read through this, that most of this is quite relevant to the home nurse. But we'll go through the case notes. We're going to do the whole selection stage together. Something else I do is take note of the dates. It just helps me build up a picture in my mind about the overall situation. I can see here there are two dates, the 11th of July and the 15th of July. Okay, it's not telling me too much. I can see the dates are quite close together. But mentally, you might want to make a mental note of the dates. Okay, guys, let's go back to the purpose. Think about why we're writing this letter. So this is really important. Who we're writing to. Yep, we're writing to the home nurse, Miss Roberts. So that's really important. We need to make sure our letter reflects that we're writing to a home nurse. What do you want them to do? Again, really important. So you might remember at the end in the task it says provide appropriate care. And we'll look at that now as we go through the case notes. And finally, what's the main complaint as well? We know the patient had osteoarthritis in her right shoulder. We also know the patient has had an operation now and had a shoulder replacement. And this is why you're writing to the home nurse. She's going to go and visit the patient and provide aftercare. So we need to stick to that. We need to focus on the main complaint. We need to focus on the home nurse as well. Okay, guys, let's keep working. So selecting case notes. As you go through the case notes, think about what's relevant. Think also about what is semi-relevant. And remember, most of the time, case notes are distractors. So most case notes you won't need. But as I said, every letter is different, and you just never know with OET. You might get a task where you do need to actually select most of the case notes. So just take care. Like I said, OET keep you guessing. You really need focus. You really need concentration. If you're clear on the purpose, that will really help you. So this is what we're going to do. We're just going to go through the case notes, thinking about what is relevant, what is semi-relevant, what is irrelevant. We know all about the purpose. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on the first selection, on the first section of case notes. You can see the headings here on the left, so take note of the headings. You've got 30 seconds to read through the case notes, and then we'll discuss together. Okay, we look at this together. Okay, so we've got the first selection of case notes, social family background. And just looking at these case notes, there's probably not too much in here the home nurse will really need to know. Doesn't matter, she's living in a single-story house. All of this stuff actually is completely irrelevant. However, the daughter will be staying with her for a month is probably something you might want to mention in your letter. So it's probably quite important. I don't know relevant or semi-relevant. It's really worth mentioning, though, if you think about it, the home nurse is going to go and visit the patient. So she'll probably want to know, just as background information, that her daughter is there to care for her. She's not completely on her own, at least not for the first month. So there's not too much there. Then we've got medical history. Again, I know you might want to write about osteoarthritis, and you might want to write about the shoulder, but remember the purpose is aftercare. The patient has a diagnosis, the patient has been treated. The reason we're writing is because of aftercare. So when I looked at the sample answer, I noticed none of this was actually mentioned. And in some ways, this is where you need to stop being such a nurse or such a doctor and become an OET nurse and an OET doctor or an OET dentist or pharmacist. You don't need to write everything here, just focus on the purpose. Current medications. Again, in real life, you might want to mention medications, but think about the purpose. Does the home nurse need to do anything with medications? If I go back to the discharge plan and just have a read here and see if there's anything about medications. You can see at the end, at the bottom, there is something there about, I think it's Clexane subcutaneous, so some kind of injection the patient will need for deep vein thrombosis. But nothing else has been mentioned there. So it doesn't say help the patient with her medication, monitor the patient's medication compliance. The patient seems to be fine with medication. There's nothing in the discharge plan. There's nothing for the home nurse to do. So again, there's actually nothing worth mentioning here. Okay, we know about the diagnosis, and you would mention that, of course. Okay, so not too much there at the moment. Let's keep going. We'll go on to the next set here. We've got our 2 dates. I'll zoom in. And again, you've got 30 seconds thinking about what's relevant, semi-relevant, and irrelevant. Okay, so if I just circle here the headings, so take note of these subheadings, they can help you. Medical treatment record. On the 11th of July, the patient went into hospital, had a shoulder replacement. Of course, this is important. The home nurse needs to know this. We'll mention this in the letter. And then we've got medical progress. And again, once again, as nurses, as doctors, as as pharmacists, as dentists, as medical professionals, your instinct is telling you that you might need to write this. So you would do it in real life. But again, with OET, just focus on the purpose. The purpose is aftercare. The patient's been treated. So there isn't too much here. At best, there's a few things they mentioned as semi-relevant. Patient compliant with her physiotherapy, her bloods were within range, treated with analgesia, had a cold compress on her right shoulder. Again, when you think about it, there isn't really so much for the home nurse to do here. The home nurse is interested in really taking care of the patient. So she's got some background information, but it isn't worth going into too much detail with the background. With the second date, the patient's being discharged today with her daughter, so completely irrelevant. So not too much relevant there at the moment. So let's keep working. We'll go to the next set of case notes. We've got nursing management. So again, take care and take note of the headings, these subheadings. Nursing management, This is while the patient is still in hospital. Okay, and 30 seconds again, guys. Okay, let's see how that was. Nursing management. Again, looking at the sample answer. Observations, everything was within range, nothing really worth mentioning, nothing worth mentioning here. You can see, actually, I mean, you might mention the last point, assistance as required, but ADLs, I think that was in the discharge plan, so that would be worth mentioning. We'll have a look at the discharge plan next. But you can see here, even though your instinct might be telling you, as a nurse, as a doctor, I need to write this. But remember, this is OET, this isn't real life. The purpose is all about aftercare, and there's nothing really here about aftercare. So let's keep going. Then we still haven't found any really interesting bits of information. We've got physiotherapy management. Got 30 seconds again, guys. Okay. And hopefully by now you're starting to understand that there isn't too much here. We really need to get the stuff about aftercare. You know, we want to tell the home nurse, this is what you need to do. Again, this is really about the patient's treatment, I guess, while she was in hospital. Nothing too much. This is really stuff for the physiotherapist. So it was all a distraction. She's been educated post-discharge. I mean, again, maybe as something semi-relevant, you could mention that. The patient has been educated. She's going to see a physiotherapist. This is her future appointment. It's an outpatient appointment she'll have. So you might mention. She's also going to have some hydrotherapy. So again, at best, this is semi-relevant. You're probably going to, I guess, mention this at the end of the letter, just to tell the home nurse about the future appointments that the patient has. Okay, and finally, well, we get to the discharge plan, and you can see here, this is probably where all the key case notes are in this letter. Let's just have a look. We looked at this earlier. Once again, 30 seconds, thinking about what's relevant, semi-relevant, and irrelevant. Okay. Okay, I guess by now you can see that this is the really meaty stuff. This is the juicy stuff. This is really what we need to put in our letter. This is what the home nurse will be interested in. Just going through this together. Okay, we mentioned she has been educated. The patient does know what to do post-discharge. So her right arm is in a sling for 4 weeks. The home nurse would need to know that. She must refrain from any heavy lifting as well. We talked about the appointments earlier, so this would be something you mentioned maybe towards the end of the letter. Again, she's having her staples removed 10 days after the operation. Again, the home nurse would need to know this information. It tells you who to contact. So there's a problem, the home nurse knows where to go, knows who to contact. She would need to know this. Okay, she's not being referred. It says referral to in-home nursing service. Take care, because this is who you're writing to. So be careful. Don't tell the recipient to make a referral to in-home nursing service. You're writing to the in-home nursing service. So please do take care. But it does tell you about the ADLs. They're more specific now, assisting with showering and also with the deep vein thrombosis as well, the subcutaneous injections she'll need as well. So you can see this is really the stuff that interests the home nurse. It's telling her directly about the patient's current condition and about what she needs to do, what the home nurse needs to do. Looking at the case notes, these are all of the relevant case notes. Everything else was really a distraction. You might mention one or two things, but at best they would come maybe towards the end of the letter. They're not that important. So you can see how important selection is, and so much of this goes to identifying the purpose of your letter. Make sure you know who you're writing to, why you're writing to them, what you want them to do, and then it will really help you with the selection of case notes. So these were the key case notes. This is the information that we need to write. And we're just going to look at some grammar now, because we're going to take these case notes and we're going to turn them into full grammatical sentences. So this is really now about your language, about your grammar. Written and spoken English can be similar, but they are not the same. So it sounds like an obvious thing, but keep this in mind. When you're doing your speaking exam with OET, it's a lot more informal. You're talking to the patient, you can use more casual kind of English. But when you're writing, you're not writing to the patient, you're writing often to a medical professional. You might be writing to a parent or carer, but often you're writing to a medical professional. And even if you are writing to a parent or a carer, you need to make sure you use formal written English. So the type of English you need for your writing is different from the type of English you need for your speaking exam. You're being tested on a different kind of English. You might say something like this if you're speaking to your colleague: he's lost something like 2 kilograms. However, that's a little bit too informal. For a start, when you're writing, you can't use contractions. You can't say he's, you need to say he is. But this is a bit too informal. Something like, I mean, that's too casual. It doesn't fit in with the style. Have a look at this sentence. His weight has reduced by approximately 2 kilograms. Hopefully you can see the difference. You can see a difference with the subject. You've got he, and then with formal writing, his weight. So sometimes using a noun as a subject is a really nice thing to do. And using that word approximately, it's just kind of raised the formality of your writing. So this is what you need. You need kind of formal English with your writing. Look at a couple of examples here. Let's turn these sentences into more formal sentences. First of all, her tests are fine. So just take a few seconds, have a think about this, and think about how could you transform this into a more appropriate formal sentence. Okay, her tests are fine. Tests are within range. Tests are unremarkable. There's a couple more. Tests are insignificant, you could say as well. And you can see the difference in formality there, can't you? How about the next one? Just give me a call if you need to. quite casual. Just give me a call if you need to. Sometimes you see something like this at the end of the letter when you have your closing statement. Please contact me should you need to do so. Again, you can see that it's more formal. And also, I didn't use if. I could say, please contact me if you need to do so. But I didn't use if, I used should. And that, again, has raised the formality of my writing. Finally, after I gave her the injection, she just fell down. Having had the injection, she immediately lost consciousness, or she immediately fainted, would be another way of saying it. Again, using this having clause, having had the injection, the present participle, we call that. Having had the injection, she immediately lost consciousness. It's a really good structure to learn, and it's a really nice structure to put into your writing. It is something taught at higher levels of English, so you can show the examiners I do have a higher command of English by using this expression, by using this structure. And again, if you want to know a little bit more about grammar, please check out wles.net. Check out West London English School, because we don't have time to go into all of the language right now. We can't cover everything in this lesson. But if you go to wles.net, hopefully you will find stuff there which can help you with language. So let's keep going. Let's go back to our letter. Our patient who's had her right shoulder replaced. And let's see the sample answer now. So we're just going to analyze the sample. I would be most grateful if you could manage home care for Mrs. Thompson, who is being discharged today after a total right shoulder replacement following admission to the hospital for right shoulder osteoarthritis. Her daughter will stay with her for 1 month in her single-story house once she has been discharged. Okay, you can see in this letter, in the introduction, we commonly add 3 things in the introduction. We normally say what type of letter it is. We state the main complaint, and really importantly is the purpose. So if you have a look at this introduction, see if you can see those 3 things. Does it tell you the type of letter? Has it told you the main issue or the main complaint? Can you see anything about the purpose? Okay, well, it's interesting because it did say referral, but here we've said who's being discharged today. So whether it's a referral or a discharge, it's a bit of a grey area, isn't it? You might say something like, thank you for seeing Mrs. Thompson. And thank you for seeing is a really common way of saying I am referring. So you could have said that. Here they said who's being discharged. So it's presented a little bit like a discharge letter. She is being discharged after all. However, remember you are making a referral to the home nurse. But this is fine. This is great. Actually, it's a really nice structure. We'll look at the grammar in a moment. We also have the main complaint. She had her shoulder replaced. She had osteoarthritis in her right shoulder. And the purpose, manage home care. So it's quite general. We haven't gone into detail. We've just said manage home care. And you want to keep it general. We now want to write about the purpose in the main body of the letter. So it's fine to keep it general. You don't need to go into detail in the introduction. But remember those 3 things. State the type of letter, whether it's a referral or if the patient's being discharged, the main complaint or the main issue, and mention something about the purpose as well. They've added another sentence in the sample answer. I don't think it was strictly necessarily to put this in the sample, in the introduction, but they have done in the sample. That's fine. You could always add this a bit later on in the letter. They've put it in the introduction, I guess, so the home nurse knows immediately that the patient has someone with her for the first month. Okay, this is the exam criteria, and this is a document worth downloading. You can download it from the official OET website, oet.com. And it's really worth having a look at this document because this is what examiners use to assess your letter. Again, check out wles.net, check out West London English School. We can't really go into detail now about this document, but it is a really important document. It's worth having a look at. If you go to wles.net, you can find out more information. Okay, and you can see here there's it says something about the purpose. Just go back. It says purpose of document is immediately apparent and sufficiently expanded. So you must state the purpose of the letter immediately to get the 3 marks. Sorry, let's go back. Yeah, but to get the 3 marks, you must make sure you write about the purpose in the main body of your letter. So you must state it in the introduction, and then you need to write about the purpose to get the 3 marks. Okay, guys, let's go back to the introductory paragraph. We've stated the purpose, we've stated the main issue, we know the patient is being discharged today, and let's have a look at some of the language. It starts off with a conditional structure, and then we have linked it with a relative clause, or with a relative pronoun, sorry. So we do actually have a relative clause then. Interestingly enough, a present continuous passive is being used. And then we have a third clause with a present participle. We've taken the verb follow, we're using it in its ing form, following, called present participle. So we've got 3 different clauses there. We've got a beautifully structured sentence. This is all one sentence. It's called a complex sentence. Again, I can't really go into detail. I'd love to talk more about the grammar because as English teachers, this is what we love talking about. But we don't have time to really go into it. Check out wles.net. As I keep saying, there's hopefully stuff there about language and grammar that can help you. But this is a beautifully structured sentence. It is formal. You can see the star. We've linked the clauses clearly. And we've got some nice structures in there. Conditional, we've got a passive who's being discharged. Okay, let's go on to the main body of the letter. Mrs. Thompson's post-operative phase was largely uneventful. She has been compliant with her physiotherapy, exercise regime, and her post-operative bloods remain in normal limits. Post-operative pain was managed with analgesia and a cold compress for 4 hours each day. Okay. You can kind of see they're mentioning, I guess, more semi-relevant stuff there. This is just some background about her treatment. And these were the case notes that we selected, and you can see how they've transformed them. They've added subjects, they've added verbs, and this is something you'll need to be aware of as you write your letter. Also, notice how they summarized the treatment. There wasn't really that much to write about. Mrs. Thompson's post-operative phase was largely uneventful. So because there were no complications, there wasn't really anything to write about. So they've summarized it in a very short and a very concise and a very direct way. And again, that's what you'll need to do. If we go back to our document, the assessment criteria, you can see at the top there are 5 sub-criteria. And I'm just going to zoom in here where it says conciseness and clarity. Conciseness, of course, means to be concise. It means being short, direct. Clarity means clear. So it's the noun for being clear. So being short, direct, and clear, easily understood. I'm just going to zoom in on this box. And you'll see here it says information is summarized effectively, presented clearly. And again, this is a skill that you're going to need when you're doing your OET writing. Don't just copy case notes and you need to summarize case notes. This is what they want. They want you to summarize case notes. And you can see how they've done it here. Mrs. Thompson's post-operative phase was largely uneventful. I didn't need to write down all the details. It was enough just to say, actually, everything went well. It was all uneventful. There was no major dramas or anything like that. So you need to summarize case notes in a very concise way, which is what they've done. Looking at the rest of the paragraph, she has been compliant, and you can see the case note, compliant with physiotherapy. What we've done is we've added a subject, she, and we've added a verb tense as well, has been compliant. So we've got the present perfect. I think I've put passive. It's not actually a passive, sorry, it's just the present perfect. This is an active sentence. Looking at this clause, her post-operative bloods remain in normal limits. Again, you can see you've had to add a verb. They didn't give you a verb. We've added a verb. This time we've got the present simple verb. When you look at the next sentence, you can see they've combined these case notes, and that's often what you're doing. You're not just writing the case notes down in order, you're moving things around and joining them together. And we've combined these case notes here using the past simple passive. So you can see in this paragraph, we have a range of tenses. The first sentence, Mrs. Thompson's post-operative phase was largely uneventful. So we've got the past simple, we've got the present perfect, we've got the present simple, and we've got a past simple passive. Effectively, we've got 4 different tenses in one paragraph. So you really need to take care with your verb tenses. It's really worth checking your verb tenses. Sometimes all of the verbs are the same. They're all in the same tense. They're all in the past simple, or they're all in the present simple. This time it's different. We're using different verb tenses. So it's really important that you do check your verb tenses. Again, just looking at some grammar here. She has been compliant with her physiotherapy regime and her post-operative bloods remain within normal limits. Okay, I'm going to put this on this screen here. Hopefully you can see this. I know it's a bit small, but I wanted to get this on the whole screen. So you can see the subject, she, and then you can see has been. Okay, so we've got the present verb and, sorry, the present perfect. And English is always made up of a subject and a verb. We call this a simple sentence. If it has one subject, one verb, it's a simple sentence. And we also call that a clause. A clause is made up of a subject and a verb. What I've done is linked these 2 clauses. And if you're going to link clauses, you need to have some kind of linking word. You can see we've linked the 2 clauses with and, another subject, and another verb here. So it's just really getting you to think deeply about your language, about your grammar, because this is a language exam. It's not a medical exam. It's not a test of your medical knowledge. It's a test of your English knowledge. So it's really worth thinking deeply about your language. We've got a compound sentence made up of 2 subjects and verbs. Okay, another sentence, post-operative pain, subject, and then the verb was managed with analgesia and a cold compress. So this is a simple sentence. It's just got one subject and verb. Okay, guys, let's go back to the letter that we have. This was the past simple we had earlier. Okay, this is the next paragraph. On discharge, the patient was educated in post-operative care. She will wear a right arm sling for 4 weeks and will require physiotherapy in the outpatient's clinic twice a week and hydrotherapy once a week. She is not to do any lifting for 4 weeks. Okay, so that's fine. You might have combined that differently. You might have said she wears her arm in a sling and she's not to do any lifting. I think that's logical. You could have put that information together. So there are different ways of organizing your paragraph as long as it is logical. So that's what they want. They want logic with your organization. So there are different ways. We could have actually expressed this differently. And again, just looking at the language, on discharge followed by a comma, it's a nice formal way of saying the patient has been discharged, was educated, she will wear a right arm sling. They're using the future simple tense. I think you could use the present simple as well. You could say she has her right arm in a sling. But this is fine because we've got duration. We've got 4 weeks. It's fine. She will require physiotherapy. Again, you could possibly use the present simple. She is to see a physiotherapist. You could say it that way. Okay, not to do any lifting for 4 weeks. And it's nice how they've made the negative. You can see the formality. She is not to do any lifting. Okay. Just one thing here, make sure you do use the patient's name. It's probably better to avoid saying the patient and instead use the patient's name. I think it's a nice thing to do because it's more kind of politer as well, rather than just seeing someone as the patient. Using the name makes them more human. So try to avoid using the patient, use the patient's name. Okay, and if we keep going, Mrs. Thompson will require assistance with showering and administration of her prescription Clexine injection, which is to be administered for 4 days as DVT prophylaxis. These are the case notes where it was taken from. Again, you've had to add a verb. Well, they've given assist, they've changed it, will require assistance. So using the future simple tense, the subject and the verb. We link the clauses with a relative pronoun, which, and we've got a nice passive, is to be administered. So a nice passive infinitive. Some really nice language there as well. So using a relative pronoun, we've made a relative clause. And like I said, if you want to know more about this, just check out wles.net, go to West London English School, and hopefully you'll find stuff there about language. We just don't have so much time to go into all the detail about the grammar. Oops. Okay, and just at the end, in 10 days, her staples are scheduled to be removed with a follow-up appointment in the orthopedic joint replacement outpatient department. In case any issues arise, the nurse specialist can be contacted by calling the hospital during the week. Okay, so we're talking again about future appointments. Again, with the organization, you might have put this when you wrote about the physiotherapy and the hydrotherapy. That would have been logical as well. So you could have organized this in a slightly different way. But this is fine. You'll notice with the grammar, we've got that structure, are scheduled to be removed using that passive infinitive, which is a great structure to use. Also here, using your own words, so you're not just copying case notes. Be careful of just copying case notes. Sometimes you might need to do, but it doesn't really show the examiners your language because anyone can copy. So it's nice, as well as using synonyms. It's nice to really use your own words as well. We got a modal passive here as well, another nice structure to use. Okay, so looking at the overall organization of the letter, you'll notice there are 5 paragraphs here. You might have been able to condense that into maybe 4 paragraphs. The key is that it's logical, and that's what they want. They want a logically organized paragraph. Sorry, a logically organized letter with logically organized paragraphs. You can see they started off with the introduction. You can see they started off with the introduction, where you stated the purpose. That's really important. State the purpose, and then you've got to expand on the purpose. We got background information talking about the main complaint here, and talking about the patient's treatment in hospital. Not too much to write about. And really, I think from here where it says on discharge, she will wear a right arm sling for 4 weeks. This is really the important stuff. This is really the stuff that the home nurse wants to know. So we start dealing with the discharge plan, talking about the arm. They also mentioned the physiotherapy, the hydrotherapy. Like I said, you could have organized that in a different way. You could have put that towards the end of the letter, but this is fine. You can see the logic. Again, they talked about ADLs, showering, and the medication, which was the Clexine injection. Remember, you didn't need to write all about the meds. There's nothing for the home nurse to do. And then we've got future appointments there. Orthopedic joint replacement, outpatient department. And you could have moved here the information about the physiotherapist or hydrotherapy as well. At the end, you'll notice that you always have a closing statement. There's lots of different ways you can use to end your letter. Thank you for your assistance. Please require me should you require further information. But normally you do need some kind of closing statement. Okay, so really just that's about it, guys. We don't have time. We would do more work. I'm going to just go past this. This is just looking at language. Again, if you go to wles.net, you can find out more about the language, the grammar, and about writing as well. So just to recap about the lesson, what we've done today, make sure you identify the purpose. You've got 5 minutes reading time before you start writing your letter. They give you those 5 minutes for a reason, and those 5 minutes are really important. Put those 5 minutes to good use. Make sure you can identify the purpose. Make sure you know who you're writing to. What is their job? Why am I writing to them? And what do I want them to do? And don't lose sight of this. Sometimes people start writing their letter after about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. You kind of forget the purpose and you start writing these general kind of medical letters. So just keep in mind the purpose, keep in mind the recipient. Don't forget this information. We talked about the selection. Remember, most case notes are distractors. Most you won't need. And think also about not just what's relevant, irrelevant. Think about semi-relevant as well, because this will help you as you organize your letter. Beware of distractors. We talked about the organization, and you can see that word logical. That's what they want. And as well as your whole letter being organized, your paragraphs also need to be well organized as well. We looked at some language and some grammar. Check your verb tenses. And, it's really worth learning some formal structures. We had like the passive infinitive. Passive structures are useful. Relative clauses. Like I said, if you check out wles.net, check out West London English School, hopefully you can learn more about language and grammar. We talked a bit about using a mixture of simple sentences, but also more complex or compound sentences as well. And finally, really important, make sure you proofread your letter. So don't just finish writing, put your pen down and say, I'm done. Try to finish 2 or 3 minutes earlier, because you do really want to check your letter. You're in an exam, you're working under pressure, you're going to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. So leave a bit of time so you can check your letter, check your grammar, check your spelling, your punctuation, everything. If you have a weakness, for example, you might be weak at articles, or you might not be very confident using articles. It's a difficult area of language, using the, or using a or an. It can be tricky. If you have a weakness, use the time to proofread your letter. Check, those areas of weakness you have. If you're not good at spelling, make sure you proofread, check your spelling. So proofread is a really important stage of your writing. And guys, really, that is it. I hope that lesson was of some use. I really do hope it helped you. If you do want more information, go to West London English School, wles.net. You'll find out all sorts of information there. If you need help with your writing, we have a writing correction service. We'll send you case notes. We mark your letter in depth as well. There's a writing course you can do. We have self-study packages. And there's stuff for reading, listening, speaking. There's all sorts of things there. wles.net. Check us out. And guys, if you have your exam coming up as well, I do wish you all the best. Keep working, keep studying, and fingers crossed for you. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. I will see you again, I think, next month. All the best. Take care. See you.